Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I refer to my register of interest and my trade union activity over the last 20 years. Mr Deputy Speaker, what we've seen in the last few days in the media, and I want to commend government ministers for this, is the performance of somersaults of Olympian proportions. Having voted down very sensible amendments at committee and at third reading to allow for alternative methods of voting in industrial action ballots, ministers have found themselves in a position so out of step on the work of trade unions and how trade unions organise themselves that even arch Thatcherites like Lord Michael Forsyth are seen as a friend of the worker in comparison. If I was a member of the Conservative Party, I would be very worried about that. But let us welcome this minor change. As we've argued previously, if e-balloting is good enough for the Conservative Party to elect its candidate for London Mayor, then surely it's good enough for trade unions to use when making its choices. As Lord Cormack said in the other place, I cannot for the life of me understand why the government are arguing against a system that the Conservative Party felt was good enough for the selection of a candidate for London Mayor. Now, I listened very carefully to what the Minister said and the reasons he gave for the Conservative Party using that choice and denying it to the trade unions. Can I just say to him gently, if there was a vote taken now between trade unions and the current Mayor of London as to who's disrupted the public's lives, I don't think the answer would be quite what the government would hope it would be. Online balloting is more accessible and inclusive. We firmly believe that access to electronic balloting will enhance engagement and participation, as today more people use electronic devices every day to communicate. We believe that online balloting, and we cannot fathom, frankly, the reasoning given in relation to suggesting that online balloting is unsafe and unsecure. Now, I heard the Honourable Lady saying that she had difficulty in conducting and accessing that ballot. And I was going to ask a number of questions. I was going to ask if the email that accompanied the link to the ballot paper said that if you press this link, this website may be unsafe and unsecure. Or perhaps it might have said that clicking this link may lead to a fraudulent act. Does it mean that the Honourable Member for Richmond Park, what does it mean for him? Is he unsafe and unsecure? Or is it the case, well, there's some government members are nodding their heads. Or is it the case that it's only Conservative Party members who have access to safe and secure emails? Is it the case that Conservative Party members have more privileges than you would find in a gold American Express card? Because that is what the trade union movement and trade union members are asking themselves. They're asking themselves this simple question: why is it one rule for them and another rule for the rest of us? And the other issue, which I know the government ministers has been pressed upon them before, the difficulty with postal balloting is that the number of post boxes across the UK has reduced by 17% in the last 10 years. So it's difficult for people to, and more difficult for people to participate in a postal ballot. Electronic balloting, I'll give way on that one.
Would my honourable friend agree with the increase in postal charges as well over the past few years that it's actually going to cost more to do postal balloting too?
Yes, I do agree with that. I actually also take the view that electronic balloting is more efficient, and unlike postal balloting, the problem with postal balloting is it would prolong the length of a dispute because of the length of time it takes to conduct that ballot. So electronic balloting would allow for greater flexibility and efficiency. Now, we are disappointed, like the Honourable Member for Cardiff West has said, that the pilot does not extend to workplace balloting as a secure option, as that too would increase democracy in the workplace. The TUC have previously argued that there is no evidence that workers feel intimidated into voting a particular way where ballots take place in the workplace, as has been argued by the government. Now, while the government have accepted the need to commission an independent review on the use of e-ballots for industrial action, their amendment effectively means that ministers would only have to publish a response to the review and therefore would not be obligated to bring forward a strategy to roll out electronic voting. That, Mr Deputy Speaker, is simply unacceptable. Now, the Lord's Amendment 2 is actually a very moderate one. The question before us today is whether the government response is good enough or whether it weakens the intent behind the Lord's amendment. And having listened carefully to what the Minister has said, we can only conclude that the amendment before us does today weaken the other places' intentions. The Government are proposing to revise the Lord's amendments to state that ministers will only be required to publish a response to the review, but not need to take any action. That underlines the intent of Government actions after the e-balloting review. To do nothing, no strategy on how to proceed, and therefore no actual commitment to allowing electronic balloting in the future. That is absurd. If the Government truly are intent on modernising the law, then they would allow for electronic balloting, and they would also allow for secure workplace balloting, and I'd be interested in the Minister's response in that regard. Our view is clear: electronic balloting will modernise the law, promoting democracy and inclusion. Mr Deputy Speaker, on facility time, we've always been clear that this clause is completely unnecessary and unwanted. Having such a clause in the bill signals intent. It signals the intent that the Government will interfere with the facility time arrangements, the basic industrial relations arrangements, not just that of devolved administrations, but that of local authorities across the United Kingdom. As Lord Kerslake put in the other place put it, the Government are saying that the cost should be transparently known and proportionate to the benefits. However, this is fully secured through Clause 12. There is no need for the reserve powers contained in Clause 13. He further stated, if, however, the public body is a local authority, it has its own democratic mandate and is answerable to its own electorate for the cost. Now, given the immense financial pressures now on local authorities, do we really think that they are incapable of making this judgment? Now, while we acknowledge that some amendments have been made by the Government, they're simply not good enough. Any attempt by the UK Government to instruct devolved institutions on how to treat their workers should be robustly resisted. Facility time allows union representatives to spend time in the workplace improving the safety and health of its workers. Representatives also promote training opportunities, negotiate better pay, terms and conditions for employees amongst many of their roles and responsibilities. Limiting the role of unions to play such a role in our public sector will have a damaging impact on public sector workers right across the United Kingdom. Trade unions are key social partners, playing an important role in sustaining effective democracy in society, particularly in the workplace. And the existence of good employment practices is a key contributor to economic competitiveness and social justice. In Scotland, the SNP government has taken a different approach. We've taken a modern and progressive approach to industrial relations and believe that trade unions are at the very heart of being able to achieve fair work. The UK government should work with trade unions in a social partnership approach, not launch yet more attacks against them. The industrial relations mechanism should be agreed at devolved or local level. It beggars belief that the UK government do not believe that a legislative consent motion is required for a UK government minister to dictate policy in these areas. The detail of much of the bill is set out in regulations, and there will be no formal opportunity for the Scottish Government or indeed the Welsh Government to influence such regulations. So today we need a commitment from the UK Government that the rights of workers across the UK will not be restricted by the imposition of facility time. Because during the passage of the bill, the member for Cardiff South and Penarth asked the Minister if the Health Secretary would make regulations that affect facility time in the health services of Scotland and Wales, which are wholly devolved and under the control of health ministers in those countries. The Minister replied, yes, but stressed how health policy and the management of the NHS in those countries would remain under the control of devolved administrations. So I asked, I said at the time, having just debated evil that week, it seems that the UK Government now want to dictate to devolved administrations. On the 2nd of February, the Minister answered that the Government would not change its proposals relating to facility time and check-off provisions in the current bill. However, in an infamous letter referred to earlier, on the 26th of January, leaked by the Socialist Worker newspaper and published widely with other media outlets, contained a number of concessions that the Government proposed to make to the bill during its passage in the House of Lords, including giving devolved administrations the right to maintain facility time and check-off arrangements. And it would be very helpful if the Minister could confirm today that devolved administrations will maintain this control on facility time. We on these benches will continue to push to derail any attempt by the UK Government to dictate to Scotland and other devolved administrations how it treats its public sector workers.
Yes.